Let's do this.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pumped.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, let's do this.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Now let's do this.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast. My name's Pat Martin. Here with my friend Chris Stewart. Coach, good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Pretty well. Sorry, I'm distracted.
I saw you smile.
I picked up my phone right before you started there.
Right before we went live.
I had a team app message. You use the team app for your team.
We're using GroupMe. It's not working out very well for us though. I'm having trouble adding one of our coaches to the group, so it's weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Microsoft support's not the greatest right now. So
I like this team app. It's I have to keep reminding people to make sure their notifications are on so that they don't miss any messages.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like that. I glanced down here and I've got a request from a player, a prospective player, to join our team app who I wasn't expecting to come out for baseball.
Is this a player from a different school district?
No. Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's a guy from Olentangy who wants to come down and play for Eastern. No, it's an upperclassman that I guess wants to come out for baseball. So,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah.
Or just wants to be part of the team app. See all my
Maybe he
conversation.
just wants to listen in, be a part of the group. Yeah.
Yeah, good deal.
Well, Sunday's coming.
Sunday's the Super Bowl, isn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that around here in the Athens,
you'd know
Ohio area.
You'd know it because the Bengal fandom grew by about 75% over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think 25% of that is true Bengal bandwagon fandom. People just saying, "Oh, here's a team I haven't seen in the Super Bowl ever, or in a long time," depending on how old you are. 75% of that is probably this whole world just loves Joe Burrow.
I know.
It's hard to meet you'll be hard pressed to meet somebody who is a hardcore fan of another team in this league who doesn't pause and say, "You know what though, I kind of like that Burrow."
Who was it was Bart Scott. Wasn't Bart Scott the guy that was giving threats to Joe after, what'd he do? He did something. Running the score up. They were running the score up, weren't they?
Yeah. Right.
Threw a touchdown or something like that.
It was when they got that passing yards record or something, touchdown.
Yeah, and Bart Scott
500
said,
some yards.
On the Ravens. He did it on the Ravens.
Which made it even more sweet, didn't it?
I'll be honest with you. It tasted pretty good to me. Anytime the Ravens suffer, I'm up
anytime
for
you
that.
put one to the old, I stop myself.
I can't. You know what? We're done here.
I stopped myself.
We're done.
I didn't say it.
It doesn't
I'm getting
matter.
better.
Doesn't matter. It was in your heart. It was in your heart.
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Someone said that one time.
You know, we sometimes we come up with these topics on our podcast here, and sometimes we don't talk about it beforehand. We really don't know where each other stand.
Yeah.
On the issues that we're going to talk about. I think a lot of times we've been lucky enough to be on the same page, and then there's other times when you were wrong. When our opinions differed a little bit, but I think we have a good topic today that is good for really coaches of all levels. And I think the situation that we're going to talk about can definitely happen at all levels, especially if you want.
Oh, it will. It will happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The more that you involve other people,
right?
Which that's part of the conversation. It's cornerstone. So of being a good coach is involving other people, putting good people around you. You got to do it. So, but yeah,
absolutely.
What are we going to talk about today, Coach?
Well, I brought up an idea to you. Every now and then, in whether it might be a practice, usually it's a practice setting, or a training setting where you're with your team. You have, let's speak in the world of baseball here, because baseball is such a complex game where what I mean by that is there are so many different ways that people might play the game strategically. There's a lot of different strategies for the way people, a lot of different plans that people have for how they're going to go about playing the game. Some people really like if you're a small ball person, then you practice that a lot. You train that. And you can expect that when you're playing a team, these are some things that we can expect. So we're going to make sure that we can defend this and whatnot. But even mechanically and with technique, there are a lot of, I guess the way I say it is, there are a lot of right ways to do things inside this game, and that might be true for other sports as well. Baseball is the one I know the most about. What I mean by there are a lot of right ways is, sometimes just because a player or a team or another coach does something a different way or teaches something a different way, it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Right.
It just means that it's not the way you do it.
Yeah.
Or it's not the way you want your team or your players to do it. And so I want to say that first, up front.
Yeah, and if I'd add to that, sometimes when you do things the wrong way, you're still able to do it well.
True.
So now as a coach, you have to judge the impact. What's the return on investment there of fixing that?
Have you seen these funny memes with their videos actually that have been, I think Tom House started putting them out. He put them out a while ago, but they've kind of resurfaced a little bit. There's a video of a dad throwing some front toss to a high school player. And he posted it and he said, "My friend's son is having some issues with his swing. Any pointers?" And it's funny because all of these gurus on the internet got underneath and commented and said, "Oh, that's a launch angle swing, and he's never going to have much. He's pulling everything. He's never going to have much success in the beyond high school with that swing." And just all of these comments, and I couldn't tell which ones were actually.
Yeah, a buddy of mine sent that to me, and we kind of had a conversation of because I thought a couple of those. I basically said, "Well, this guy pointed out everything he was doing well, saying that it was wrong."
Right,
you know what I mean?
right. Well,
and any of those guys that said he'll never make it to the upper level, I kind of thought, yeah. See, what's the punchline?
But there was actually
some.
Like a travel ball coach, I think. That
I know
got on there.
the one that you sent
like a 17U team out of Illinois or whatever.
Yes,
and he was just breaking it down and saying, here's what you should, here's some things that you can do to work on this and that. And people were like, this dude's being for real. He's being for real. And what was so funny about it is that the video was an old video of Mike Trout's dad throwing to him. That was Mike Trout hitting.
Yeah.
And so it's, to your point, yeah, it might not look like what you think it should look like. That old boy can hit, though.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. Mike Trout's pretty good, isn't he?
He's okay. I mean, he's borderline. He's the best. He's the best in outfitter in the MLB right now, isn't he?
Yeah, I love watching his at bats. He just competes every at bat to get on base.
Yeah.
And that's all he cares about. I mean, that's his number one goal is to get on base. Whether it's a home run, a triple, double, single, a base on balls, hit by pitch, he's going to get the pitch that he wants, and when he sees it, he's not going to miss it.
Yeah,
he's a student of the game.
He is. That kind of reminds me of when we had Coach Wilson on. I guess it's been
Kevin Wilson.
It's been a little while, and the approach that he takes in training hitters, and the understanding that not all hitters, when you say something, they don't feel it the way you say it. You know what I mean? So that's where this idea of swinging down on the ball comes, or swinging up on the ball. You'll have different hitting coaches say never. You always swing down on the ball. You always swing up on the ball, right?
Right. And
the fact is, some people need to hear swing up on the ball, and some people need to hear swing down on the ball.
Yeah.
So it's just there's a lot of gray area in there, and you got to be careful about. You got to be careful about saying it's only one way,
because it just isn't. It's individualistic. It's you training another individual,
right?
And that's what makes coaching a team like a high school team so difficult, because you don't have that kind of time logistically with every single player.
Right.
I mean, you're probably starting to feel, we're 2 weeks out from starting practice, and you're probably starting to feel that overwhelming feeling of, I'm going to have 30 some kids in a really tiny gymnasium. What am I going to do?
I am feeling that. Yeah.
I mean, until this freaking snow starts melting. I told April, I was looking, she said, what's it look like this week? I had my weather app just scrolling, looking for a day that might be above 50, where we might get rid of the snow finally here in Southeast Ohio, or pretty much all of the Midwest right now.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, just
But we had a really good year last year, so.
we did. Yeah, I think we
be-
practiced inside twice last year. And part of that was because we just don't have an indoor cage. That's right, folks. If anybody's listening out there and you want to donate to us, we need an indoor cage.
Oh, Megs doesn't have.
You don't have one
indoor
either?
cage
So both of these guys here,
Tell you what, if anyone out there wants to build one, we'll share it.
you and I,
Yeah.
we could easily share it.
Yeah, wewe'll share it.
Yeah, put it right in the middle.
Right.
Yeah. Well, shoot. Mark Porter right up the hill there could put one in his.
Yeah.
Let's go talk to the Porter family about that. He's given me a lot of money this year already, so we got to do a little ad for him. You see, if our field looks a lot nicer, we can thank Mr. Porter for that.
I think it's going to look nice.
Yeah. Well, as soon as the snow melts, as soon as we can
Right.
see it. Can't
Right.
see it right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the point. There's going to come a time as a head coach, and I think that's important to establish, that you as a head coach do call the shots for your program in how you want things done.
Yep.
And that means there is a way that every team wants things done. And you can't just say, well, we'll just do it a multiple way. I guess you could try that, but I don't know how that works. And so you know how you want to teach certain aspects of the game, whether it be pitching, catching fundamentals, pitching fundamentals, hitting fundamentals, fielding fundamentals, and all of those. But every now and then, you might have someone on your staff, say an assistant, who sees a player, doing something, and they give advice that's different than what you want to get, than what you want your players to do.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting conversation. I think it's an interesting thing for us to think about. How do we handle that as head coaches? Because one, it happens. It is going to happen, and it probably will happen more than once. And I'll say this. Yes, as a head coach, I do take responsibility for making sure that all of my coaches understand how we want to do things.
Right.
We have coaches meetings and we talk about as much as we can possibly talk about, but inevitably something is going to come up in a practice situation where you're coaching a kid up on a certain technique or something that you didn't get to talk to in your meeting because you only had 2 or 3 hours to meet and not 12, where you could go over every scenario in baseball, or I should say an eighth of the scenarios of the game of baseball in 12 hours. So something's going to come up.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yep.
And when it does, what's the best way to handle that?
Yep. It's a tough question. I don't think there's not one right way to handle it. And I think, there's a couple things for me that, I'm a new coach. So this is definitely going to happen this year for me, probably multiple times.
It certainly will, because you're coming into a program that belonged to a different head coach who
Yes.
probably did things differently.
Yes. Oh,
Not
absolutely.
wrongly, just differently.
Differently, right? And I have some carryover from that coaching staff. So I've got Coach Wood and Coach Fife from last year's staff, coming over, and we talk about those things. This is how we did it last year, and talk kind of about the differences of what my vision is and things like that. I've been around our JV coaches quite a bit, but never really coached with them. And then Coach Finlaw, I've been with him quite a bit, so I think we're on the same page. However, Coach Finlaw has some different ideas than I do.
You can just tell Matt to shut up and get in line there, brother.
right. So I think for me, there's two things that stick out, Coach, and I think first of all is relationship is huge.
Yes.
To have a good relationship with those guys and to have them know that you're not above them. You don't put yourself above them. That everyone has a role, and everyone is filling that role. And nurturing that relationship amongst the coaching staff is very important, where you can have open and honest conversation, and so and if the situation arises that you do say, in a situation that you're talking about, if a coach is is telling a player, instructing a player to do something in a way that, isn't necessarily the way that you want the players in the program to do that, then they would be okay and actually want you to step in and say, that's not really the way you want to do it. And I know when I open up the Megs Marauder playbook, and I guarantee if we opened up the Eastern Eagle playbook, there's going to be a word in there that is seen multiple times. That word is serve, serving. And, that's part of that serving mentality of putting the needs and the priorities of the program above our own. So it is a pride thing. So it's delicate, but I think one thing you got to do to nurture that situation is, or to help the situation when you find yourself in those situations, is nurture the relationship between you and your assistant coaches.
It's a constant thing. Yeah. It's a constant thing, so that when that situation comes up, it's a little bit easier to deal with, because you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to say something, and that's the awkwardness is. I'm not the type, and I know there are a lot of coaches that, maybe not a lot, but there are some coaches, and I kind of see this in the football world. I saw it in the football world with a particular high school coach one time, and it was ugly because his assistants hated him. He believed in dressing his assistants down when he needed to in front of the players. If they were wrong, they needed to make sure that they all understood that we all do it this certain way, and it was it didn't go well. It didn't go well.
Yeah, I guess context would be important in that situation for me.
Yeah.
Right. I want my players to respect my assistant coaches, and I'd be afraid of doing that would strip that respect away. Absolutely. And that's what really makes it difficult to figure out what's the best way to handle this, because there are two problems here. One is you've just found something, you've just discovered something that you and your assistant coaches aren't on the same page about. Yes.
That's a problem.
Yep.
And it's, and again, it's unavoidable because it's going to happen. There's a lot of different ways to do things. You just got to fix it. You got to make sure you're on the same page.
Right.
So that's one part of it. The other part of it is you don't want your player doing what that coach just said to do.
Right.
And so you got to somehow tell the player that, no, actually we want you to do it this way, without undermining the knowledge, the care, the love, without basically putting a wet blanket on that coach from ever wanting to make a comment or coach a player up again, right? Because that's a delicate thing.
Yes.
You correct something, it might cause that coach to shrink back.
Absolutely.
And that's the last thing I want. I want our assistant coaches doing a lot of the work in practice.
Yes.
And a lot of the coaching work is what I'm talking about. Not small work, big work, good coaching stuff. And I want them to have the freedom to do that. I want them to feel like that's what we always want. But I also, like you said, I want to have that kind of relationship where I can say something like, yeah, you know what? That is one way, that's one of the ways, of the many ways that we might do that on the baseball field. However, this is my preference. This is what I would prefer for us to do. And I know we haven't got a chance to go over all this together.
Yeah.
But here's what I would like to see us do. I can give a specific example from a handful of years ago. And this is probably a fairly common thing. Tagging up from third base. So just to set it up, if you have a runner on third base with less than 2 outs and there's a fly ball to the outfield, you always want that runner to go back to the bag to tag up to potentially score the run, right? A sacrifice fly.
Always?
You know what? There is a small percentage of the time, like I would say 10% of the time,
maybe even less,
when I would be okay with a player breaking, and that would be
a low line drive to left field.
If it's an in-betweener that the outfielder is running hard on, that you're not going to be able to tag up on anyway, then go ahead and work your way down that line so that you can score. Otherwise, I want their first instinct. That's what I mean by all the time. Yeah,
no, I got
as soon as my word is read it off the bat. If you read it down, read it past the pitcher and go. If you read it up, your first jab is back to the bag. So we're just you get that instinct. So in practice, that's how we practice that. So we were in a batting practice, and I had kids, whenever they got around the third base to practice that. Every time there was a fly ball, they were practicing that instinct. So kid goes back to tag up, and I could hear one of my coaches saying, "Hey, don't watch the ball. Listen for the third base coach." So I'll play the third base coach here, and as soon as that outfielder catches the ball, I'll say go. So you get yourself ready to go in good position to run. And I was throwing BP.
Might cost you an out. Slows you down, right?
You miss. I find two problems with that. So that's not my preference. I'll just say that. That's not the way I prefer.
Well, and you're
to
real
coach
big
it
about base runners owning their time on the base path.
Point number one is I want our base runners to the least that we have to do as coaches on their behalf. I want to do, and we don't have to do this.
You're just there to guide them.
You don't have to do it. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and so I understand why some coaches want to do it that way. I mean, because it could be a helpful thing. But it's just not the way I want to do it. I want the player who is the better athlete than I am. Let's be honest. I mean, they're playing that sport. They should be the better athlete right there. They're on the field. They should have a feel for it. I want them to see it in the glove. I want them to see and hear it in the glove and then go. I don't want, as a coach, to have this issue of me trying to time it up in a way where I say go just as the ball's coming to the glove, knowing that after I say go, then that player's going to go. Because what's going to happen is that opposing dugout and all their fans are going to hear me say go before the ball gets to the mitt.
And the
because I'm going to try to, and they're going to assume that player went on my go, as soon as I said go, which we know that that's not the case. I mean, we know that they're not leaving unless they just happen to anticipate it and leave early. But I've seen that happen way too many times where the coach actually said go and it was really close and they appealed it, right? And I think we can remove that from that's I guess reason number two why I don't like it. And so I did. I stopped right there and I went ahead and said, that's one of the ways that that it can be done. However, my preference is that we would do it like this, and here's why. And I actually shared that. I want our base runners to take ownership, and I don't want the possibility. Sure. I gave an example of a game years ago, a Little League game, where I heard a coach say go, and the ball wasn't in the mitt yet, and the player didn't actually leave early, but they appealed it. And I said, that's a problem that I think we can avoid. And the coach was like, oh yeah, okay, good point. And it worked out really well. I was able to go ahead and take that moment to kind of stop the whole practice and shout that out and say, hey, this was a really good thing that happened here. We have a couple of different ways that maybe you guys have been taught over the years to tag up from third base. Here's how we're going to do it, and we're all going to do it the same way. I mean, it's that kind of thing. There's little things like, what do you say on a fly ball? What do you teach your kids to say on a fly ball? Is it mine, mine, mine? Is it I got it? Or is it ball, ball, ball? It doesn't really matter. It's a lot of different things. It's just in our program, we want to hear ball, 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 and we want to hear somebody else who might be closing in on that ball concede by saying take it, take it. That way that player knows we're not going to collide here.
You want to use the same terminology every time.
Ball, ball, take it.
Yeah.
Ball, ball, yeah. And again, I've heard there have been times when, now that's something we kind of clearly communicate that, so I don't ever run into this issue very much, but sometimes you will. I mean, maybe you forget to communicate it, and so or maybe a coach isn't there on the day you communicate it, and your kid's saying ball, 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 and a coach says, no, say mine, mine, mine. Well, that's just because that was your preference. That's what you said when you were a kid.
That was me,
but
mine, mine, yeah.
But again, it's one of those things. It's like, well, actually, here's what I want us to say. There's not really any rhyme or reason for it.
Would you let your outfilders have any ownership over that?
Over what they say? I did last year, actually. I gave them options.
Yep.
I said here's two options. There's ball, 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 and mine, mine, mine. Because they had always said mine, mine, mine. And I said, what do you guys like? And they came up with ball, ball, ball.
Yep. So I like that.
It's
I like
punchy.
That approach.
Ball,
yep.
ball.
And see, that's kind of what we're talking about there too. Is some coaches, nope, it's mine.
My way or the highway.
Mine, mine, mine. Ball, ball, ball. One or the other. I think that's
not. I got it because it could be you got it. Well, just don't say you got it ever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I got it, it's fine.
Say it, right. Yeah. As long as you're
got it. Who cares?
It's just a form of communication. As long as the other person understands what you're saying, it's good. But
Yeah,
I think when you say when you take that approach of my way or no way, you're really setting yourself up for failure because you're going to be wrong at some point. You're gonna make a mistake. I did this a few years ago in travel ball. I was coaching a travel ball team when I was working with the outfielders, and I was telling them not to turn their head off the ball. That's an age old.
Yeah, you and I would have had a little conversation about that if you're teaching my outfielders.
Well, that's what I was teaching, and one of the outfielders who is actually I have a very good relationship with, a good player, and came up to me. He's like, "This isn't the way we're taught in junior high ball. We're taught to that we can turn our heads." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." So I said, "Well, I'll get back to you on that."
Yeah.
So I went. The first thing I did.
And then you become a learner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, oddly enough, the first video I pulled up was a video of Mike Trout,
Oh, really?
and he's practicing fly balls. And he's doing. He's turning his
Turned
head.
and ran, then found the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you kind of get into there's some dynamics of that. If you got to maintain a sprint, that's a great opportunity for you to go ahead and turn your head and keep going a sprint. If the ball's more up in the air and you got a little bit more time, then you can open your hips and keep your eye on the ball. So there's different ways to do different things, but the key is you're going to practice both of them so that you can do both of them.
Right.
And I brought the guys together the next day and I said, listen, I was teaching you guys to do this because it's basically the way that I've always been taught, and it's it's something I haven't looked into as much as I should, obviously, but I've researched it, and this is the way we're gonna practice this now. And we kind of went over those the different reasons why you would do one or the other, but ultimately it comes down to what you're comfortable with,
Right?
What you're good at,
What each individual is comfortable with.
Yeah,
in that case, right? I mean, because you may have an outfielder on that same team that says, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I feel like I can't find the ball as well, whatever. Okay, do it the other way.
Yeah, do it.
In that sense, there is two ways on our team to do it, right?
Right.
It's just
But
that
the key,
it's just that I'm not going to close. I'm not going to say, oh no, don't ever turn your head away from the ball.
Right.
You opened up your mind to the opportunity for multiple technique on that.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to me saying, you have to put the priorities of the program and the team above your own, above your pride.
Yes.
And that serving mentality that we talk about. That's kind of what you do. And I think when you talk, if you, in the instance that you're bringing up, this is how we're going to do it. When a coach has just said, do it one way, and you kind of want to do it a different way, or the program, I think to deflect that or to return that responsibility back to you, like you did, this is something we never got a chance to talk about. I think that's good, to own that, because ultimately the buck stops at the head coach's feet. So
right.
if your assistant coach is teaching something that you don't want them to teach, that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
So you're fixing it.
And I think, did you have something else to tag onto that?
I don't remember.
Sorry.
Oh, you mean
thought
just
you were
now?
done.
No, I'm good.
I'm
good.
You got to dig big deep breath there as I got ready to talk.
No, you're good.
Well, just to continue on with what you're saying, I mean, you did something personally there that I think is important for us to do together as well when this happens, and that is have a discussion about why. Because I may have a way that I want our kids to do something, and the coach may have taught it a different way, and then I say, well, this is actually how we want to do it. But then I want to have an opportunity for us to also sit down and say, here, let's talk about why. Let's talk about the pros and cons of those things, because I may actually change my mind.
Yes.
And that's a point. I think it's a good point for all of us, because coaches have egos. Head coaches have egos. Assistant coaches have all people who are in the game, because we're athletes.
So.
We're athletes, right? I hope we have some. We've got egos that we want to cling on to the way we do things.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing: we can change.
Absolutely.
We can change. We should change our minds about things.
We should be seeking,
adapt, evolve.
seeking change.
Yes, that's the whole point of being as good as you could possibly be as a coach. Is this game is changing tremendously every aspect of the game is changing tremendously. And again, it's not just baseball; it's every game.
Yes.
Every sport is changing tremendously. One of the reasons is because the athletes are changing. The science behind how we're training athletes and everything, it's just everything about athletics is changing. You and I went to that state clinic, and we heard Zan Barksdale talk about catching.
Yeah.
How much has the position of catcher changed over not the past, I'm not talking about the past 20 years.
No.
I'm talking about the past 8 years.
Yep.
Because from the time my son was in high school, I can tell you right now, the things that I was teaching my son and he and I were working on together, receiving the baseball as a catcher are different now than they were in 2017. That's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago. I would not have had him. I would not have had him relaxing his hand to the floor, to the ground, and then bringing the pitch up. Catching the pitch with the glove on the way up, bringing it into a strike zone if it's a little bit underneath the strike zone. I would have had him stick in that. I would have had him get your thumb under and stick in that pitch.
Right.
And it's just a different thing. So that things like that are going to come up all the time because this game is changing all the time.
Yep.
And when we played it, I mean, who's my youngest assistant coach? Is Coach Burton my youngest? I think.
Is
think
he?
so.
Is he younger
Yeah. He played under Nick Detweiler at Rio Grande. Nick was an assistant at Rio, and when Burton was there. Yeah. But even since he played, the game has changed a lot. And so I don't care how young you are, how old you are, we've got to be able to adapt in the way we do things.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you right now, like if my assistants are listening, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm always reading and studying about this game because I'm the oldest one among you. And I could be the one I could be the most stuck in my ways about doing it if I don't stay on top of reading and understanding.
That's a big part of coaching.
It is.
Is reading and watching and listening.
One of the most encouraging things to me was seeing these. I talk about old. I'm talking about 70-year-old guys speaking at the ABCA and schooling us on the new ways.
They knew all about it.
Oh, they're on top of it, and that's the reason why they are where they are. Yeah. Bruce Bochy, retired Major League Baseball coach, he had a way of telling stories that made you go, yeah, that's new technique. I mean,
Let me tell you what's old school, because I hear that term all the time, and I think it's fleeting. And I'm
old school, new school stuff.
Yeah, I tell you what I think's old school. There's a fundamental element to being old school. Winning. Old school. If you think about, when Pete Rose. What was the catcher that Pete Rose took out in the All-Star game? Ray Fosse, that's right, yes.
Well, he ended his career in an All-Star game.
Yeah.
Collision at the plate.
Why? Did he not like Ray Fosse? No.
It's just the way Pete played the game
He
all
played
the time.
to win, right?
Yeah, there's Pete's my favorite player, so I know all of his quotes. There's a quote where Pete said, I don't care if I'm playing, because it was after that happened. And why would you do that? And he said, what do you mean, why would I do that? I don't care if I'm playing in the 7th game of the World Series, an All-Star game, or a church picnic game. I'm going to play the same way. Yeah, that's how I play the game.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, if these guys, these players, or in any sport, and it doesn't matter what sport we're talking about, if there's a way to do something that makes them better, they're going to do it. Now, that doesn't make them new school. You know what I mean? They're going to do it because they're going to do what it takes to win.
I found a way to win today.
Absolutely,
that's different than maybe it was yesterday.
Yeah,
and that's why you're saying it's new school, but it's all about winning.
It's all about winning.
Yeah.
That's what I think. But yeah, I think we were kind of getting to this. Maybe not. What I wanted at the beginning, I said I think there's two things that I would focus on, and one is that relationship we have with the coach. The other would be the impact of the change at the time. So if it's not that big of a deal, which I think you could argue that it always is that big of a deal. But in my mind, I had this as we were. I was kind of thinking about this topic and maybe how I'd handled it and how I've kind of handled these types of things in the past. I think if a coach, we have different roles on our coaching staff, and different coaches do different things. If a coach has a responsibility to teach a certain group of players or a certain skill set or whatever it may be, and they own that, and as a head coach, you hear them teach something that doesn't necessarily jive with the program, I think that's an opportunity for them to kind of step back and, you could, like you said, have that discussion as a group. And maybe it's not necessary for you at that moment to speak up and say, oh, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
Maybe you allow that assistant coach. Well, first of all, you have that discussion so that you can figure out, why this is the way the program's going to get. And maybe you change as a head coach. Maybe, like you said, maybe your mind changes. Maybe you want to.
Yes.
Maybe you're convinced to go a different way. But
if I do, I'm going to stand before the whole team and tell them that.
Yeah, and give that assistant coach the opportunity to say, hey, okay, yes, true, the credit in that scenario,
right?
But if not, and the assistant, you give the assistant coach the ownership to resolve that issue. When they go back to the their players group that they're working with the next day, they can tell them, hey, coach has had a discussion. I did some research. What I taught yesterday isn't necessarily the truth. And here's some different ways to look at it, and here's the way that our program is going to think about going forward with this. And I think that that's a direction you could take too. I don't think you could always take that direction.
Well, you could take that direction if there is trust among if there's a relationship there, right? A relationship of trust among your staff.
Yeah.
And that's what it always comes back to. Because again, if there's not, then one, you probably won't allow that to happen that way. But if there isn't trust both ways, or respect both ways, a deep level of respect, because what you could also have is the potential for, that assistant who may be a little bit chapped that you're not doing it his way, saying, well, I know I taught you this yesterday, but this is the way coach wants to do it, so we're going to do it this way.
That's true.
And that's not the way you want that communicated.
No.
Because what's that do?
No.
Yeah, that creates a division right away.
Good point.
In that kid's mind, that creates a division among our coaching staff and among our program, and that's the last thing we want.
Yep, for sure.
So I would do it. I would trust my guys with that. That's where you got to be.
Yeah.
You got to be in a place where you can trust them that they're going to go back and say it in a way that promotes the unity that we desire to have, and the unity that I believe we do have on this program.
Yeah, and the bottom line is the longer you're together, the more unity you're going to have, the more chemistry you're going to have, the more on the same page you're going to be, and that's why assistant coaches are so important to retain.
Absolutely,
keep them around.
Absolutely,
good stuff.
Yeah, I think that is good. It was a unique, sort of a different conversation, different topic, right?
Yeah, and I think I said this at the beginning of when we started recording. I think it's important for youth coaches, for recreational coaches, for travel ball coaches to have discussions with their assistant coaches.
Let's take it another level. This is why it's important for youth organizations to connect with their high school in the local area.
That's a good point.
To find out how you want. I mean, some areas are county leagues where you got multiple high schools, but if you have a youth league, like the league that our kids play in is a county league, but we have kids in particular locales that are going to our school district.
Absolutely.
Right? So we have Chester and Tuppers Plains. And I can meet with those guys, which I've already I contacted them last week about this, about getting, having a camp, and we're going to do a little preseason thing on sign-up day with them. Remind me to tell you about that a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah, I need to do some advertisement on our podcast.
The youth
when they come in for sign-ups here in a couple of weeks, we're going to do a little day camp, meet the team type thing. Yeah,
I like it.
And that's I just leaked that, so that's not even been advertised yet.
Surprise!
Yesterday, so yeah, let's get ready for that.
That's awesome.
But one of the things I talked to Chris Carroll about is I want to do the same kind of thing with coaches. So I know if you've not been used to doing that kind of thing, it's hard sometimes to get youth coaches to come to like a clinic or something like that.
Yeah.
But we can make it fun. We can offer pizza, do something where we get them together and we just say, hey, listen. A lot of that is question and answer. It's just, hey, you got anything for me? Like,
Yeah.
but I want to give practice plan ideas, and just if there are certain ways we want to do things, let's start teaching it like this here. Like I would talk about base running a lot, just in a general way,
Yeah.
right? Let your kids run the bases.
Yeah.
I would talk about, when they're fielding the ball, there are certain fundamentals and mechanics that we want them to abide by when they're fielding a ground ball, but also kind of let them do some things that are unconventional, because sometimes they might have to make a play like that, on the run and flip it to them or whatever. I talk about the two hands issue. Stop saying two hands. The only thing we want them to catch with two hands is the ball that they got to transfer quickly, right?
Yeah.
That's out in front of them, let them play some catch. So, and where you say, don't ever catch anything with two hands during this catch time here for the next 10 minutes. Everything I want you to catch it. I want you to just glove it. Use your glove. Get comfortable with the glove. And I want them to understand. Let's get these kids ready to go. Let's get these kids. Those are the more general things, but at least then, that's going to translate a lot easier into the way we do it at high school, at the high school level. Yeah.
Definitely.
So not only among your own coaches, youth coaches, chat with your high school coach.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that that's something that a lot of high school programs need to do more, is make that connection with their youth programs, because a lot of times that's your development program, and you
Absolutely.
you have 4 years when they get to your high school program. And with the time that you have, it's not easy to change some of the things that we're talking about.
Oh yeah,
there.
in this sport in particular, where everything is a skill. It's not just about getting strong and moving somebody out of the way. If a little kid was a lineman and he learned some different technique as a kid, there is technique there.
There is, yeah.
Right. But in the game of baseball, every position's a skill position.
Yeah.
Everything you do is a skill. And so once you ingrain a way of doing a skill, it's hard to break that habit.
Yes.
And but you can. It's just you would rather not have to.
Yeah, it's hard for a high school coach to find the time to do that.
Right.
Because you're worried about
not
the
a
team
personal
at that,
trainer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, you would love to be. You'd love to be able to. I would love to be able to go and watch every hitter and break them down and do video analytics with them. But you literally just can't.
There's a cost to that. You're giving up something.
You're sacrificing something to do that. So, yeah. And you know what? This goes the other way. I can say, one of the things that validates this conversation, I think, I can tell you this. My son went and played 4 years of college baseball. Guarantee you, during that time there, they did a lot of things way differently than he did them in high school. Who was his high school coach? Me.
Right.
Did I feel like they did things wrong?
Yeah.
Of course not. Well, maybe a couple things, right? When you're bunting in the first inning, No. Yeah, I always talked about that a little bit. What are we bunting in the first inning for? Right? What are we bunting in the first inning?
Get that run, man.
Yeah. Got to get that one run in the first inning. Anyway.
Can you clarify that? Or is this going to go? Are we going to put this on?
Keep that on?
Are we going to leave that? We're going to leave this on?
Yeah, let's leave this on. But we should clarify.
Can you clarify something?
Let's clarify something.
You're all right with bunting in the first inning?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I
just want everyone to hear that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Should we explain in what context?
No, because that'll give away our strategy.
I'm not good with giving up an out in the first inning. I'm not good with a sacrifice bunt in the first inning. I'm just not. I just do not like. That's not a strategy that I want to attain.
When you go into a baseball game, the most valuable commodity you have
are your 21 outs. A college 27 outs.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's your
And
life
you're
source.
Giving
That's
one
your
of those
energy.
up unnecessarily in the first inning. If my 2-hole hitter comes up with a runner on first, and he's savvy, and he pushes that bunt in between the first baseman and second baseman.
See, now you're.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. So yes, bunt in the first inning.
Right.
But let that player do it if he knows he can do it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, don't sacrifice an out there.
I got onto you one year I think you were coaching the junior Legion team or the Legion team that you put together.
Oh, I was during the COVID summer.
Yeah, during
It's kind
COVID
of a
summer.
mix. Yeah.
You're
15U, but I had a couple of 16-year-olds on there.
Your best hitter got up,
Yeah.
and put one down the line.
He laid down. He did that on his own.
And I was calling. Oh, get out of here! I was calling bush league from my favorite stands there at Meg's.
He got himself out of a slump.
Yeah,
It wasn't a slump. It wasn't a slump. He was flying out. He was flying out.
You're talking millimeters,
Exactly.
literal.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he bunted for a base hit.
Gave us a spark.
Make something happen.
Yeah. That was a fun game.
Not against
you talking
Barney.
about the game that we played when we played Meg's Junior Legion team, and Bailey.
Yeah, I know.
Bailey.
Oh, was that the game Bailey pitched?
he pitched against some of his teammates from
Oh,
high
that's
school.
right.
ball.
He pitched for you
And
against
he threw.
That's right.
Yeah, and he threw 9 innings. I think that game went like 10 innings.
Yeah.
and he threw 9 innings, and he was mad because I took him out. Like, Bailey, you've thrown 126 pitches here. I can't let you go anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And then we brought in old Will Wickline, man, and he bared down. It was like, because he had been injured.
Yeah, he had been throwing
and
much.
that was the first game where he just really had his good stuff, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch. Yeah. So anyway,
stuff.
baseball's fun. I mean, a lot of those kids are kids that I wasn't going to coach in high school. Actually, ended up I coached against Will. Will's my cousin's boy. Related to him, and he's on our rival school's team. So it's always kind of a fun thing there to play against relatives when you're rivals. Like, you got the Diggs brothers in the NFL. Stephon
Yes,
and
did you
Trayvon
see that
Diggs.
the other day? They played against each other.
Yeah.
They put one of them in there as a receiver.
Yeah.
He caught a touchdown. Did he catch a touchdown?
Which one? Which one is the Dallas Cowboys one? I get their first
I
names
don't know.
mixed up.
I don't know.
All I know is that Diggs is stud, man.
Well,
He's a stud
That's not what I
DB.
heard.
What's
I
that?
heard the only reason he gets interceptions because they pick on him all the time because he can't cover.
Is that what it is?
That's what I heard. I
saw somebody say. I
analytics.
saw a meme that because he's never dropped an interception. In his career, he's never dropped an interception. Well, do you realize that no defensive back in the history of the game of football has ever dropped an interception?
Because it's not an interception until you catch it.
You catch the ball. It was a stupid.
That's a great-
it was a stupid data point.
Well, but they.
I mean, we understand what they're saying.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
ball that they had a
It was
chance
catchable.
to intercept,
Yeah.
he intercepted it.
Yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, I mean,
Communication.
sometimes that happens, right? So it's not like I chose to go and coach it against a family member's team.
Oh, no.
It's fun the way that happens.
Especially in today's, the way the game is kind of spread out and played today. You never really know who you're going to end up playing against.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be coaching against my brother this year. I mean, not in a league game, but he and I are playing against each other.
Are you going to
We
FIFA
have for years.
Are you going to split?
We're going up there.
Going up
No, it's just a one. We only have room on the schedule
Is
for
he
one.
coming down next year?
Probably.
You better.
I need to hold him to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because he's going to be loaded this year.
Is he going to
He
be?
only graduated a couple. He says, I lost some big seniors. I know if you're listening, Jared, you're like, don't say that. But he still got his best pitcher. The guy he threw in the regional tournament, I think, is coming back. Yeah, he lost some good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a small school, too. He only had 13 kids on his whole roster.
It's hard to replace those guys. So I think
It is.
as a coach, you're like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's still got a lot coming back, though.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. We always kind of get off on these little tangents here at the end of the podcast.
This is where
that's
people
okay.
stop. I wish we could see
That's
when
why the
people
stats
listen.
say, they're only listening for 35 minutes.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes, sir.